Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into a topic that might just blow your mind. The connection between your gut and your mental health.
It's a fascinating area of research.
It really is. We've got this amazing scientific review paper jam-packed with insights from all these epidemiological studies, clinical trials, animal research, you name it. And it turns out those trillions of bacteria living in your gut.
They might be playing a much bigger role in your mood, anxiety, even things like depression than we ever thought.
Yeah. I mean, did you ever imagine that those tiny little residents in your gut could be influencing your mental well-being in such a huge way?
You know, it's really remarkable how much we're learning about the gut microbiome these days.
It is. All right, so before we get too deep into the nitty-gritty, let's back up for a sec. For those of us who haven't been geeking out on scientific papers like I have, what exactly is gut microbiota?
Well, you can think of it like a bustling city of microorganisms, trillions of bacteria living within your digestive system.
Trillions. Wow.
Trillions, yeah. And they're not all the same, of course. Some are our friends helping us digest food, produce vitamins, even train our immune system.
Oh, so they're not all bad guys.
Definitely not. But then there are others, not so friendly, that can cause inflammation and contribute to various health issues.
So it's a mixed bag down there.
It is. And it's not just random chaos either. There's order to this microscopic world. We have these dominant groups of bacteria called phyla. Two of the most prevalent are firmicutes and bacteroidetes.
Firmicutes and bacteroidetes. Gotta love those names.
Right. And they're especially important when we're talking about mental health. It's all about keeping them in balance. When that balance is disrupted, we call that gut dysbiosis. And it can have ripple effects throughout the body, including the brain.
Okay, so we've got this complex community of bacteria living in our gut.
Yeah.
But how do they actually talk to the brain? I mean, they seem pretty far apart geographically. Is there like a tiny little phone line we don't know about?
Not a phone line exactly, but there are these fascinating pathways that allow the gut and brain to stay in constant communication. It's what we call the microbiota gut-brain axis.
Microbiota gut-brain axis, catchy.
Right. And one major player in this communication network is the vagus nerve, a direct line running from the gut to the brain.
Ah, so like a superhighway of information.
Exactly. And then there's the immune system. Believe it or not, immune cells in our gut can send signals to the brain through chemical messengers.
Wow, so our immune system is involved too. That's wild.
It is, and it gets even more complex. There's also communication through the metabolism of tryptophan, a precursor to serotonin.
Serotonin, that feel-good neurotransmitter.
Exactly. And then you've got the gut bacteria themselves, which can produce neuroactive compounds that directly impact the brain. It's this intricate and dynamic system, and scientists are still working to untangle all the details.
Sounds like there's still a lot we don't know.
There is. But what we do know is that this gut-brain communication plays a significant role in our mental health.
Okay, so how does this gut-brain connection actually manifest in specific mental health conditions? Can we really link gut imbalances to things like, let's say, anxiety or depression?
We can, and that's what's so exciting. Researchers are starting to pinpoint those connections, and the findings are pretty remarkable. For instance, studies have shown that people with anxiety tend to have lower diversity of gut bacteria, especially those helpful firmicutes we mentioned earlier, and higher levels of some not-so-beneficial ones like bacteroidetes and fusobacteria.
So it's not just about having enough good bacteria. It's about having a diverse mix of them, kind of like how a diverse ecosystem is a healthy ecosystem.
Precisely. And with depression, researchers have observed these specific alterations in the gut microbiome, like decreased levels of dialister and Coprococcus species.
And those are thought to be important for mental well-being.
They are. And it's not just anxiety and depression. There's mounting evidence suggesting that bipolar disorder, autism spectrum disorder, even schizophrenia are all associated with unique changes in gut microbiota composition.
So each condition has its own microbial fingerprint, in a way.
It seems that way.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember, research is still ongoing.
Right. We don't want to jump to conclusions based on preliminary findings.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about all the problems that gut dysbiosis can cause. But this deep dive isn't just about the doom and gloom, right? There's got to be some hope here. What can we actually do to improve our gut health and, in turn, our mental well-being?
That's the really exciting part, and we're going to dive into that in the next part of our deep dive. We're going to unpack some incredible dietary interventions that have shown real promise in supporting mental health by influencing the gut microbiome.
I can't wait to hear about them.
So as we were just discussing, research is really pointing to this idea that a balanced and diverse gut microbiome is super important for mental well-being. But the question is, what can we actually do about it? Well, thankfully, there are some pretty amazing dietary strategies that have shown real promise in supporting mental health by directly influencing the gut microbiome. It's like we have the power to actually reshape that inner ecosystem one bite at a time.
That's what I like to hear.
Uh,
So what are these magical gut-healing foods? I'm ready to hit the grocery store.
Let's start with probiotics. These are those live beneficial bacteria that you can find in fermented foods or take in supplement form. Think yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, all those tangy, flavorful foods that have been enjoyed for centuries in different cultures. And specific strains of probiotics like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, those have shown particular promise in potentially helping to manage mental health concerns like anxiety and depression.
So we're talking about actually consuming those good bacteria to replenish and diversify our gut population. I'm curious, how do these probiotics actually work their magic in the brain?
Well, they have a few tricks up their sleeve. Some studies suggest that they can modulate the metabolism of neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers in the brain that affect our mood and behavior. Others have shown that probiotics can improve the function of the HPA axis, which is our body's central stress response system. And some research even suggests that probiotics can boost levels of BDNF, which is a protein that's crucial for brain health and plasticity.
Okay, so they're like tiny little mood-boosting ninjas working on multiple fronts. That makes sense. But, I've seen so many different probiotics out there. How do we know which ones to choose?
That's a great question. There's a growing body of research looking into multi-strain probiotic formulations, which basically combine different types of beneficial bacteria. And early studies are suggesting that these multi-strain blends might be even more effective than single strains in supporting mental health, kind of like having a whole team of superheroes working together.
Interesting. So it's not just about popping any random probiotic pill. It's about finding the right combination of bacterial strains for our specific needs. But probiotics aren't the only players in the gut health game, right? I've heard about prebiotics too. What's the deal with those?
Prebiotics, they're like the food for our good bacteria. They're these non-digestible fibers that our gut microbes ferment and use as fuel. Think of them like the fertilizer for our gut garden. And you can find prebiotics in foods like onions, garlic, bananas, asparagus, whole grains, all those good things our moms always told us to eat.
So we're feeding the good guys so they can thrive and keep the bad guys in check. Makes sense. And I think some studies have shown that these prebiotics can actually have a direct impact on mental health as well.
Yeah, exactly. Research is suggesting that certain prebiotics like dietary fiber and GOS or galacto-oligosaccharides can actually be helpful in managing symptoms of anxiety and depression. And then there's also this exciting realm of synbiotics, which basically combine probiotics and prebiotics together.
A one-two punch for gut health. So probiotics to introduce the good bacteria and prebiotics to keep them well-fed and happy.
I like it. Exactly. It's a powerful combo. And the potential benefits of symbiotics go beyond just mood enhancement, too. Some studies even suggest that they might help reduce the side effects of certain antipsychotic medications, which is really promising for people dealing with some of the more severe mental health challenges.
That's amazing. Symbiotics are definitely something to look into. But earlier you mentioned another term that caught my attention, postbiotics. Okay, so we've got probiotics, the live bacteria. We've got prebiotics, the food for the bacteria. So what are postbiotics? Are we talking about like bacteria ghosts?
Not quite ghosts, but you can think of them as the helpful byproducts that those good bacteria leave behind after they feast on those prebiotics, like little gifts from our gut microbes. And postbiotics can include things like short-chain fatty acids or SCFAs, enzymes, and other metabolites, all of which can have a variety of positive effects on our health.
So these postbiotics, they're not the bacteria themselves, but they're the beneficial substances that they produce. That's fascinating. What kind of effects are we talking about?
Well, one really key example are those short-chain fatty acids, the SCFAs. Studies have shown that SCFAs, particularly one called butyrate, have these anti-inflammatory properties and play a role in regulating all sorts of bodily functions, including the immune system and even gene expression. And in terms of mental health, some research suggests that SCFAs might be involved in alleviating depression-like behaviors, at least in animal studies. More research is definitely needed to confirm this in humans, but it's a promising area of study.
Wow, there's so much going on in our gut. It really is its own little world down there with a huge impact on our overall health.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the good stuff, the food. You mentioned earlier that certain foods can have a particularly positive impact on our gut and our mental well-being. Tell me about these dairy delights that can help boost our mood.
When it comes to dairy and mental health, the spotlight is really on fermented dairy products. Things like yogurt, kefir, even some aged cheeses. These are often teaming with both probiotics and prebiotics, creating this like power couple for gut health.
So my daily yogurt habit could actually be contributing to my mental well-being. I'm on board with that. But are we talking about any type of yogurt, or are some better than others?
While not all yogurts are created equal, it's important to be mindful of added sugars, which are pretty common in a lot of commercial yogurts, especially those flavored varieties. And too much sugar can actually have a negative impact on mental health, so it's best to opt for plain, unsweetened yogurts whenever possible.
Okay, noted. Plain yogurt it is. But are there any studies that actually support these benefits of fermented dairy for mental health?
Definitely. There was this really cool study where people consumed a specific fermented dairy beverage for 9 weeks, and the results showed an increase in beneficial gut bacteria like Adlercreuzia and Megasphaera, while some of the potentially harmful bacteria actually decreased. And they also reported improvements in symptoms of depression and even constipation, which, can sometimes go hand in hand.
Wow, it's impressive. So those fermented dairy drinks are definitely worth checking out. But you did mention earlier that some studies have linked regular yogurt consumption to increased depressive symptoms. Why would that be?
Right. So, as we were talking about earlier, it really comes down to paying attention to that sugar content. Some of the studies that suggest a link between yogurt and depression might be picking up on the effects of the added sugar rather than the yogurt itself.
Got it. It's all about choosing those plain, unsweetened options. Noted. Now, dairy isn't the only culinary hero in this story. What about the wonderful world of spices? Are there certain spices that can benefit both our gut and our brain?
Spices are amazing. They not only add flavor and depth to our food, but so many of them have been used for centuries in traditional medicine for all sorts of health benefits. And now science is really catching up and starting to reveal their potential to support both gut health and mental well-being.
So we're talking more than just a sprinkle of flavor here. These spices are packing some serious punch.
Absolutely. One standout spice is turmeric, which contains the active compound curcumin. Curcumin has been studied quite extensively, and there's growing evidence suggesting it might be really helpful in reducing anxiety symptoms.
Turmeric lattes have been all the rage lately. Now I know why. What other spices should we be stocking up on?
Another intriguing spice is capsaicin, which is the compound that gives chili peppers their heat. Studies in mice have shown that capsaicin might help alleviate depression-like behaviors. Of course, more research is needed in humans, but it's a promising finding.
So adding a little spice to our life can be good for our gut and our brain. I love it. But how do these spices actually work their magic? Are they directly influencing the gut bacteria, or is it something else?
Scientists believe it's a combination of mechanisms. They might directly modulate the composition of the gut microbiota, either promoting the growth of the beneficial bacteria or inhibiting the growth of the harmful ones. They can also influence the activity of certain enzymes and signaling pathways in the gut, which can then have these ripple effects on the brain. And some spices, like turmeric, have potent anti-inflammatory properties, which could also play a role in their mental health benefits. It's complex, but it's clear that these culinary treasures have a lot to offer.
This is all so fascinating. Okay, so we got our probiotics, our prebiotics, and our mood-boosting spices. What other dietary strategies can we use to support our gut and our mental health?
Well, don't underestimate the power of a plant-rich diet. Fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, these are all packed with fiber, prebiotics, and a whole array of nutrients that support a healthy gut microbiome.
Okay, so eat the rainbow, lots of colorful fruits and veggies for overall health. But how specifically do these plant-based foods support our mental well-being?
Research has shown that a higher intake of fruits and vegetables is actually linked to better mental health overall. One study even found a connection between higher fruit and vegetable intake and reduced inattention severity in children with ADHD. So those fruits and veggies, they're not just good for our bodies, they're brain food too.
That's amazing. So we should all be piling those fruits and veggies high on our plates. But it's not just about quantity, right? The types of fruits and vegetables we eat probably matter as well.
You're absolutely right. Remember those flavonoids we talked about earlier, those powerful antioxidants found in so many plants? Well, there was this study where participants drank flavonoid-rich orange juice for 8 weeks, and they saw a reduction in their depression scores, plus an increase in those beneficial gut bacteria.
So ditch the sugary sodas and go for that OJ. But what about other fruits and vegetables? Any favorites for boosting mood and gut health?
Oh, there are so many great options. Berries are fantastic sources of antioxidants and fiber. Leafy greens like spinach and kale are just packed with nutrients that support both gut and brain health. Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and Brussels sprouts, they contain compounds that can help detoxify the body and promote a healthy gut microbiome. And don't forget about those fermented vegetables like sauerkraut and kimchi, which are awesome sources of probiotics. Aim for a variety of those colorful fruits and veggies every day to get the full spectrum of benefits.
Okay, I'm definitely getting a colorful plate going.
Mhm.
But it's not just about fruits and vegetables, right? You mentioned medicinal herbs earlier. Tell me more about those.
Medicinal herbs are fascinating. They've been used for centuries in traditional medicine systems all over the world, and modern science is really beginning to understand their potential to support health in so many ways, including through their influence on the gut microbiome.
So we're talking about things like ginseng and chamomile.
Exactly, those are great examples. There's been some really cool research on American ginseng extract suggesting that it might be helpful in improving memory and attention, possibly through its effects on the gut microbiota.
Ginseng for better focus. Might have to try that. Are there any other medicinal herbs that stand out for their gut-brain benefits?
There are so many to explore. Chamomile, known for its calming effects, also has prebiotic properties, meaning it feeds the beneficial bacteria in our gut. Lavender, often used in aromatherapy for relaxation, might also play a role in supporting gut health. And then there's peppermint, which has been used traditionally to aid digestion and might have positive effects on the gut microbiome as well.
Wow, the world of medicinal herbs is vast. It seems like there's a whole pharmacy out there in nature just waiting to be discovered. So, to recap, we've got our probiotics, our prebiotics, those mood-boosting spices, a rainbow of fruits and vegetables, and even medicinal herbs. Our gut health toolbox is overflowing.
It is, and the best part is that these dietary changes are often really easy to implement and can have a significant impact on our overall well-being. But we're not quite done yet. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll wrap it all up and leave you with some key takeaways and tips for incorporating these gut-friendly strategies into your daily life.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey today, exploring this fascinating connection between our gut microbiota and mental health. It's amazing to think about those trillions of bacteria living in our gut and the incredible influence they have on our well-being. So before we wrap things up, let's recap some of those key takeaways and, most importantly, what you can actually do to nourish your gut and support your mental health.
Sounds good.
So we started by talking about this complex ecosystem of bacteria living in our gut, this microbiome. And we learned that maintaining a balanced and diverse gut microbiome is absolutely essential for overall health, but especially for our mental well-being.
Right, and we talked about the gut-brain axis, that two-way communication pathway between the gut and the brain. Fascinating stuff.
It really is. And we also discussed how disruptions in this gut-brain communication, often caused by these imbalances in the gut bacteria, have been linked to a whole range of mental health conditions, from anxiety and depression to even more serious disorders like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. But the good news is we have some control here. We can actually influence our gut microbiome through the choices we make about what we eat, which is a pretty empowering concept.
It is, and we talked about a whole bunch of different gut-friendly foods and strategies, from probiotics and prebiotics to those fermented dairy products, mood-boosting spices, and the power of a plant-rich diet.
It's like we have this whole toolkit for gut health right in our kitchens.
So let's talk about some practical steps our listeners can take. What are some easy things they can start doing today to incorporate these gut-friendly strategies into their daily lives? Well, one really simple thing is to start incorporating more fermented foods into your diet. Things like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, all those tangy and flavorful foods that have been enjoyed for centuries in different cultures. They're full of beneficial bacteria that can really help diversify your gut microbiome.
Right. And just a reminder, it's always best to go for those plain, unsweetened varieties whenever possible to avoid those added sugars.
Exactly. Too much sugar can actually have a negative impact on our mental health. Another easy thing you can do is add more prebiotic-rich foods to your meals. Think onions, garlic, bananas, asparagus, leeks, artichokes. They add so much flavor, and they really help feed the good bacteria in your gut.
I love roasted asparagus with a little olive oil and sea salt. Delicious and gut-friendly.
Perfect. And don't forget about the spices we discussed earlier. Turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, even a little chili pepper can add so much depth to your dishes, and they all have potential gut health benefits too.
So spice up your life, literally. And what about those fruits and vegetables? Any tips for maximizing their gut-boosting power?
Aim for variety and lots of color. The more colorful your plate, the better. Berries, leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, they all offer a unique set of benefits for both your gut and your brain.
I've been trying to make more smoothies lately. It's such an easy way to get a ton of fruits and vegetables all at once.
That's a great idea. And if you're interested in exploring those medicinal herbs we talked about, there are so many options out there, from calming chamomile to focus-enhancing ginseng. Just do a little research and see what sounds good to you.
It's really incredible to think about how much power we have to influence our gut health and, in turn, our mental well-being just by making simple changes to what we eat. It's all about making small, sustainable changes that we can stick with over time.
That's it. It's not about being perfect or following some crazy restrictive diet. It's about making those gradual shifts toward a more gut-friendly way of eating that nourishes both your body and your mind.
Well, this has been a truly fascinating deep dive into the gut-brain connection. I hope you've all enjoyed the journey and gained some valuable insights into the incredible power of your gut microbiome. But keep in mind, this field of research is constantly evolving, so there's always more to learn about the fascinating world inside us.
Definitely keep exploring and, most importantly, listen to your body. Pay attention to how different foods make you feel, both physically and mentally. You are the best expert on your own body, and your gut will thank you for making choices that support its health and well-being.
That's a great point. And that's all for today's deep dive into the gut-brain connection. We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.